Just when I thought the weather was going to get nice, it's getting bad again. Okay, so I missed last week's weekly update, so I'm going to give everybody a refund on their monthly, we call it the battle room. Actually, every morning I do a battle room update. I know some people have war rooms, but we also have the line of scrimmage. There's a line of scrimmage meeting at about 15 minutes before the top of each hour, and we decide whether or not it's a breakout or fake out. That's typically what we do here at Forex Productions Inc. We had to drop the LCC because we were being sued because somebody, you know, created a thing that looked like one of the charts where it's crazy. I don't know, back office problems. And anyways, the only bad call that I had last week was 2 weeks ago was on the dollar yen. I said, buy that thing, damn it, because we had this flat top, these hammers or dojis, whatever have you. I took off the I got rid of the candles on this. I'm just going with the volatility. So, 100 pip grid on here, so you can figure the volatility pretty easily. I don't want to overthink this stuff. I did say that the oil was going up 3 weeks ago. That was my recommendation, that we were in auction mode. We had chopped these guys. We trapped these bears down here on these wicks, and lo and behold, we broke that monster trend line that was just perfect. So you don't get a lot of perfect trend lines like that. This is the next thing to buy. Obviously, it's about to break this trend line. Now, you can sit there and say, yeah, it's going down. Okay, go ahead, sell it. Be my guest. This is going to be quite the vicious, and then we're going to come up to here, right? I mean, if you just had to make a decision, this is 20 weeks back. Forget looking way left. This is breaking out, right? If you didn't get it, this bottom becoming a top, becoming a bottom. Okay. Sorry, you got to go to a smaller time frame to get on that train. This is about to crack north pretty hard. Duh. We've had it. We've come back to the flat dojis. We've trapped the bears. Now we got to rip their head off. Same thing here. This is probably the one to lead the pack. You got to get out here though on something. This one is, well, I still think we're going to go smacking up into this flat spot. Now it's more of an auction trade because they want unfair value. This bottom becoming a new place to sell is not working out. We're cutting north. That's a 2 week. You have to wait 2 weeks to get paid there. This is still got to maybe come back one more time to here. We all know what's going to happen here. We're going through go to the roof, right? Duh. This one's easier to get on board. Especially now the ATRs are getting small. I mean, everything's on that, it's this little, baby pullback like this, right? Where it's like, uh-oh, ruh-roh, like this bottom really is becoming a top. Yikes. And that's quite a bit of pips. The denser these look, the darker these look, the more dense these pips are. So you got to get your wallet out. This is the cheapest thing to trade on this whole thing. This is moderate, you know, this is kind of like, this is pretty moderate ATR. This is vicious. The pound against anything, forget about it, right? So let me just start over there. You know, excited. Okay, this one, yeah, you know, but look at it's how you get in these damn things, right? If you had buy limit sitting at the apex of this triangle, which happens so much on every pair, you're continuously cashing in. You would have to reload that wagon though. Here, that's the wick trap. Double bottom, but the market makers need to get their liquidity fills on these So you want to be the wick. You want to buy that whole wick. You want to stand in front of this train as it's coming at you and then hold through. Like maybe you dump everything half here and you ride the rest up into this low. Obviously, right? That's the trade. Here is the bottom. Everybody's going to be bailing here, right? And then going to go down. It's the same story, different day. Okay. I don't know if that's helping. I hate this double click zoom. So, you know, this is, everything's going up. Sadly, this could go down. It looks like this could still be tanking. This is still tanking. This is cutting new ground. Dollar CAD, finally it's done dripping. Now, dollar CAD, this is not rocket science. They wanted this price. There's stops there. That's scalping on the weekly. You're buying here with your stops here, or it doesn't matter. Put your stop here. Risk $100 on a micro. Go for it. Now it's about cleaning all these stops, maybe just up to about here now. But we still got to trap these bulls one more time and pull it back and just... This is a lot of money here. This is like 400 pips of garbage. And you can tell me all day long there's a head and shoulders in there, but this is half a year from here to here. How long can you wait to get paid? Sure, it came back to this top bottom, right? And your buy limit there, you're a genius. You only waited 6 months for that entry. Only 6 months. So that's why you want to scalp this chart. You see the doji, you see the flat. You got limits there for, maybe it's a 2-week trade. Maybe it's just 1 day. You're right on the edge. Like, you really think about, this is a 50 pip failure. 50 pips. Hold that for 3 weeks. I couldn't hold for 3 weeks. If I made 200 pips in 40 seconds, I think I'd get out. I'm just saying. I think I'd just be like, you know what? That's working for me. So I'm always showing these weekly charts to show that if you have the patience, you just draw these trend lines because these are hard moving averages. So we broke that trend line. If we find resistance there, then yeah, it's got its lights out for the dollar. Then you can do all sorts of things where, you know, but I'm just going to do the obvious thing that's happening here. Crude oil, if it takes out that, then we're going up to this, right? This low here. $50, $45, whatever. The other one to the pound New Zealand is the one that's going to be viciously going up here. So this is just going to be mind-boggling, you know. Besides, they going to keep the Union Jack flag, right? So look at this. Another. It could come down to here though. This top here, this little baby top here, this big. But I would be very scared if I was a bear right now because we failed to close into that channel. We wicked into it, but we did not close into it. That's going to be quite the monster. That could be the trade of the century, or the trade of the next. It's going to feel like a century. To hold these trades for 5 weeks would be, there's so many places to get on the train. I mean, I wouldn't even think about, but this is another one. This thing is really not going down. Then it's probably going the other way. Crazy. This is the one that I say would lag this. So this was my big, not a lot of pips here, but it was a big pattern, obvious pattern of a trap. This is about to turn. This will be vicious. The pounds could still lose against the dollar here. We could go down maybe a little bit more. I definitely buy in limits there for a bounce here. Yeah, limits for a bounce here. This is going to be, this is already cat's out of the bag. This one, which was recommended by my big institution traders. This is out of the bag. Cat's out of the bag. I can't even believe people that have a that are managing money would try to sell this thing here. As if this thing, I mean, that's to me looks like the pullback. That was the wick into this doji. Structurally, you are like not. You got to go. Now this can be scary for the bears. They got to run for cover. Come on, as soon as you take out this, you know, look at the monthly. Really? Like, it's going to be nasty. I don't even know where this thing, yeah, I mean, people that are projecting, off, I mean, that's what bull view is, channel-wise, they're looking at this. It's going there. I guess I am, but I'm bullish all day long on all this garbage. Everything has its move anyways, right? Who cares? Here, like, if you were just trading, this was the trade I said that we were going to go wick crazy. Anything below this, you had to start buying. And you had to reload that gun. That was the trade, though. It was the top inside the bottom back here. That was all the reasons for the limits. It wouldn't have mattered. You could have had a buy limit. You could have had sell limits up here, but you only made about 100 pips off of that, and you had to get out here at this, like, to really break these trades down, right? I mean, you have to think in terms of what you realistically do in the real world. If you have the buy limits down here, everything starts here to capture this window. Well, sure, you're cashing out there, but you're also cashing out. So you're coming up on this. Never hit that, but you definitely came up on those wicks. But hey, look, this thing's going up. Duh. Look at this trend line. Do you think they're not gonna? Do you think this thing's gonna be bid down this low, this long? Well, I heard. Forget what you heard, because it's the reality of it. This is gun to your head trading. You know, gun to your head trading is what's the trade right now? No, what's the trade right now? Because you just have to do it. Look at this trend line. And I've seen these where you're just thinking to yourself, anybody that's trying to buy this thing, they're thinking, oh, it's going to break this. Yeah, well, you know what? They may just pop it just a few pips above the weekly range, and then bye-bye, it's still going down. This is more likely to go up than that. We've already wicked into this a bunch of times. Anytime you see that, you're like, you know what? That's the hammer's like about the best look back of an accumulation phase happening very quickly. So, and this is knocking on heaven's door. This thing, forget about it. This is going to be one of the, and it's not a lot of pips here, right? This doesn't have the ATR of the guppy. You know, the guppy's going to be the monster. If you like to have wide stops of 500 pips, this still going down though. From a channel standpoint, you know, the steepest channel you can pick is here. So steep's your friend because it's basically about. So this thing could still go down again, but when this turns, they're all going to turn. The pound's going to turn against everything. It's going to turn on the guppy. It's going to turn on here. So who's next to crack? And here is the laggard. So this may have to be, this looks like when the Canadian dollar is melting down 3 weeks ago. I did a chart about that drip down effect. You could still come all the way back to here. And this is one of those channel or troughs, or what you want to call them, that just kind of ended in a there's the other version of that, which is there's an upside down version of that where it's bullish, and that's what you see right now in a couple of the other currencies. You see that channel that just spills out, and everybody that's got the buy limits waiting for the top to become a bottom, they're buying this, and they totally get creamed. Now that's why you just need stops in the fucking market, like, to just get stopped out. I mean, if you're running buy stops above this, no fill, right? No harm, no foul. Same thing here. All these marching up patterns, just to get into order entry, how you actually make money on this crap. I mean, you can analyze this till you're blue in the connected zone. But I mean, come on, you're gonna put your sell stops here, get trapped. Sell stops, get trapped. I mean, look at this marching, and then bam, oh, and then you're just getting, oh, and then you get chopped to death, and then oh, you finally, if you had really stayed with that, with your 1,000 pip stops, yeah, you made it all back and then some. Because even the fill here, this sell here, is up, right? Now, who's got the patience and the fortitude to do that trade plan? And it's all about the market's trying to fill this void. It's always trying to fill the hole, right? It's trying to heal itself from punishment. So the market is trying to survive. Not trying to survive, it's just trying to accommodate the thing. So this big thing was filling, and we might have to keep filling all the way to here. Who knows, right? But that's about the way I'm looking at it. And right now, if you had a static order of 100 pips, right, you're only allowed to trade with 100 pip stops or 80 pips. If that was your threshold for pain, you know, that's $8 on a micro, so you're going to have to spread your risk over maybe, if you want to risk 80 bucks, you got 10 of these going, and you put them on each instrument, you walk away, you set it and forget it. It's like a damn chess game, right? I move here, you move there. Like here, your buy limits would be sitting down here. This is obvious. 200 pips deep. Are you going to get filled next week? Probably not. So look for a more realistic entry. Here, you got buy limits, right? Maybe you got sell limits here for a pullback to here. This is kind of scary, because if this looks like one of those where it's going to consolidate and fail, and really it's all about taking out this trend line, and then this top becoming a bottom has already been your buy limit on the weekly. So you're scalping the weeklies. It's like that. Scalp the weekly is about putting your orders just here, and you just tight stops just to there, boom. Same thing here is you had sell limits up here, no fill. I guess you'd have to take the risk and place a 100 pip window of orders, you know. I mean, if you're gonna really trade this stuff, you may not get filled, but here's a doji entry. There's your doji, here's your sell limits. So they tag the doji, which is really just a consolidation or a triangle or a flag or whatever have you, just fill in the blank. It also corresponds to this one, which corresponds to this price. It's a very important price here. And maybe it's going to keep dripping down here. So how do you play it, right? How do you play the hand you're dealt? Here you can see that the resistance is stacking up, and at some point, whoosh. Now that's the scalp, but there's always the retest. I mean, this, you know, for the people that are thinking, oh, it's going to come zooming back up into here. Well, if it's really going to make it back up there, it has to go through this chop accumulation. This is like a Wyckoff theory. This is distribution. Anytime you see chop, distribution, markdown, distribution, markdown, distribution, markdown. Then here is the redistribution and the remarkdown. This is why you get the equal price pulse there, the equal, you know, symmetrical move, up, pause, and then you know, you put whatever spin you want on that. And this is like a accumulation, but it's happening in kind of a drift up, very bullish accumulation where the accumulation is on an angle. See, I mean, it's choppy, but it's getting higher, and then zoom, it's taking out. So if you have a trade plan for this kind of garbage, you're making 200 pips every week and just literally what phase you're in. So after a big giant move, and 80% of this market is this. So if you just found all the times that your trading bot lost money, he's losing money 80% of the time. This is why trend trading sucks. You can't build a trend bot. Your trend bot's losing 80% of the time. Do you see anywhere on here? Okay, he just lost 80% of your money. Again, he lost. He lost again. He lost. He's on the weekly. It doesn't matter what time frame. Like, how is this robot filtering out? You mean he's only going to take this? He's only going to take this move here, but he lost so much trying to get aboard that move. This one price pulse, one big move, one big move. It's not even. It might be 90% chop on this thing. Look at this. I mean, if you're telling me that this is the trend, how in the hell are you making any money? Honestly. Oh, well, I rode that, but yeah, you got to be realistic. If your entry technique on this involved anything that was stupid, and you did not have a way to make money during this phase, you mean you're only taking those on a 5-minute chart and a 15-minute chart? I could see that. It would make sense. And I guess I just turned my weekly update into this like anger rant. But I mean, seriously, to see people talk about trend is like talking about I don't know. I guess it's a romantic idea that or some type of security feeling that I got the wind at my back. Okay. But you're like, that's like saying, you're on this space. Like, you always wondered when you're on an airplane, what would it be like to open the window and stick your hand out? So, I mean, it's all about perspective, and I guess it's about the overall scale of things. But I don't know. So this is like this trap here. See how the market dips down in here and traps all of these bears that think, oh yeah, it's just, guess what, we're going up here, people. So it's a real rope-a-dope kind of thing. That's like a old reference. Rope-a-dope. But you don't want to be the guy getting roped and doped and being tugged along with these ridiculous fake attempts at a trend move. I mean, are like these I guess that's why people do use moving averages. The only problem there is that the market has no concept of like, well, we should probably behave so that your 20-period moving averages sync up with our behavior. No, it's like the market's pretty wild. Like a wild animal, you don't know when they're going to show up. Now, if you've ever watched Mother Nature in action, which is really what the market is, it's never going the way you think. Like, oh, every time this happens, that happens. Not always. And what happens when the weather gets bad? So, got to consider everything that could possibly happen and be realistic. So, sorry to get sidetracked there, but come on. This is obvious what's going on here. Why are people making this like so the Gartleys and all this stuff, right? And Fibonacci. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. This is going up. This is probably going to be crazy. Who can't see this stuff coming? Look at this thing. Are you kidding me? They've trapped every bear on the planet underneath this. If it rejects this, bottom becoming a top, all the money they printed in Japan, come on, they're going to print more. They'll sell it on eBay. If you take this trend line out, oh boy. And this will be all, I'm sure all the YouTubers that have the, well, look at the wheel, I can't believe the banks are printing a bubble, it's forming. I'm like, this is how we're making money. I don't know if anybody's actually trading out there, but other than people that come with their newsletters, come on. This is where all the money's at. It's in psychosis. Look at this trap down here. Who can't see this crap, right? Look at this thing. Oh my God. That's the head. That's the shoulders. Huh? Well, yeah. Wow. It's going to be some kind of crazy year. Oh man. If this thing starts to cut into this, forget about it. Look at this huge. I saw this. I mean, you could go back to charts and see this stuff, and if this was a 4-hour chart or like a 1 hour chart, and this was like yesterday. Like, who's not thinking we're at least gonna go to here? This consolidation point. Forget about it. Katie bar the door. Boom. Not a straight line, but hell, these are pretty good moves. Look at these failed attempts. Just a trap. So there could be some more trapping going on here, but isn't this going to be a problem? This 2-year hole? 2.5-year void up here? It's going to be a problem. Now, this was a killer trade. Look at this. Just this alone. This first trap. Boom. Didn't make it up to here. That's why you just got to get out of, like, you got to be getting out of this along the way. You can't be, oh yeah, I just bought, 50,000 yards of currency and, oh, missed my target by 100 pips. Oh, they stopped me out. Didn't even have a trailing stop in there. I just bet the ranch. So, and here's the last, another, wow. And then this trend line stacking up. That's gonna be a situation there. Then the retest. You thought you missed out on the trade? You thought it was gonna go consolidate, and you're like, oh gosh, I better buy it here. And then you ride it all the way back to here. You're like, you mean I could have just bought it at the same price I bought it back here? That makes no sense. You mean I have 2 more chances to buy the same thing? This is like some, I hate to go back to the girl, but it's like she dumps you. She's like, okay, I found a new boyfriend. She comes back to you. It's like you got married 3 times. 3 times. And then you went off and you moved out of the country and you went over to, this is Australia versus New Zealand. You went and moved to Australia. But look at the drama. Bottom becomes a double top. Wow. This giant trend line in here. Break out, pull back, find support, the trend line. This is wicked. This is going to be a wicked one. This will be the trade of the year. Okay. Mark me down for that. That's going to be something else to see what happens here. And this was where this had boldly gone where no currency's gone before, right? And that's essentially par, right? This is 1 penny above par. So we have to get these markets calibrated. Gold looks like it could go sideways now. So everything's reached equilibrium. And so, of course, I don't know what effects. I can't say that there's any, like, well, there's always just time passing by. Things go too long, too far. This could still go down. This damn. I know a lot of people are bullish on this because they see the bigger trend, but this is just a range. It's all range trading to me. You know, if you're gonna say this isn't a downtrend, how's your robot been doing in the sell trends so far? Unless it's in and out of this thing. Here's another prime example. Look at all the wicks on here. Like, I don't care if you think try to ride this thing with some, like, programmed. It's all about the fact that the market's going to retest. Top becomes a bottom on limits there. That's a scalp on the weekly. This is like when the news comes out, you've got orders sitting here. You don't care that it just spiked down. I mean, this is like 1 week. A lot of pips. Same thing here, but they stopped you out. Who cares? You bought that. Who cares? Right? Here you bought on limits. Right? You had to. With that theory in mind, here's your limit, right? Your limit order's sitting here. Well, that's now you made money. So now, if you had bought that support level and wrote it back to this double top here, and now here is the lack of volatility is dying out. You're getting into a quiet range. If you can trade with 200 pip stops, then you can make 500 pips, right? Because you've got your sell limits here with your stops at 200 pips, and you're looking to make this. Here you're going to put buy limits down here, obviously. Just grid this whole thing out. Doesn't matter. Once we take this out, you know, you may have to come back here and scoop this out, so you got buy limits sitting every 100 pips there. Then you can just, as the market starts to quiet down, now you come in with the buy stops on top. Market's quiet, 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 quiet. Buy stops are stacking up, or the resistance is stacking up. It comes back, revisits this double top, this big thread that runs through. Boom. I mean, boom in terms of fast money. You could just have traded this last 2 years ago and made a fortune, or made a small chunk of money, just rode that, and dropping down to the 4 hours for entry. You're looking for this crap on the 4 hour, this, I like this stuff on the 1 hour, looking for triangles and places to get in. Here, same thing. If you zoomed in on this, I'm sure there's triangles and stuff. Here, it's getting a little choppy. Here is where people are getting clobbered. Now, once again, how much of this thing is sideways? Yeah, it's slightly up, but come on. Be realistic. It's a rocky road. Look at this garbage. The whole year. A waste. A waste from a trend standpoint. A waste of time and effort. Is this a trend? No. It's a spike. Is the 100-day moving average, which you can already see is like this, and then it's finally going to figure out the market's going down. Oh, my 100-day moving average turned down. I'm like, yeah. Why didn't you sell here? Because I was afraid it was going to keep going. No, you just step in front. You just keep nailing this puppy. You lay a gauntlet of orders like a spike strip on the highway to cut you. You got buy limits down here. Forget it. Let it happen. Master stop. Market comes down. Maybe it only fills these two. Then it comes back. It's cashing out. Trade's over. You don't have to be there. It's kind of hard to jump. If you jump on right now at the market, you better have a buy limit 100 pips deep in case it's really not going up just because you bought it. So that's all. Another thing to consider. The market doesn't give a fuck if you're on it, in it, or about it. It doesn't know you exist. So that's kind of another thing hard. If you're a paranoid person, you're going to look at it and say, oh, they know where my stops are and all this crap. This is about volatility, and there's a 100 pip. If you're waiting for a 100 pip week, you couldn't trade this whole thing. It's collapsing here because it's too past your ATR. Here, if you're running 100 pip stops, you want to get in on breakouts in any direction. So your filter has to be 100 pip. The reason I got the bar charts up here is because 100 pips, right? That's your risk. Tell me all the, if you had radar filters, give me any, I need an alarm that says, if I was going to trade 22 pairs across the board like this, I'd be to have a 4-hour chart and go, I want an alarm when anything gets below 100 pips in 4 hours. But the thing is, you need to have the robot has to call out the currency pair, because if you just have bells going off, you don't know what's connected to. If you're going to just trade one currency on a laptop and there's an alarm on that laptop, you know when you hear the other room in your house that that means that, oh my god, the pound yen is like, it's dead in the water, right? It's an alarm to get in, not because the market's moved, it's because it hasn't moved. It's about the market not moving. Here's 50 pips for 3 weeks in a row. Do you want to bracket this thing with the strategy of stop entry? Yeah, I think you do. Okay. Oh boy, let me try this zoom again. Look at this entry here. I don't know. Why is this program such a piece of garbage? I mean, no matter how I click my mouse. Okay, look at this resistance stacking up here. Is this not the lowest risk entry you ever saw in your life? You never got filled on your sell stops. Only your buy stops get filled. You made 200 pips. Where do you bail? Once again, here. So maybe you left something on the table. Who cares? Buy stop stacking up, resistance stacking up. Oh, retest, retest. Oh, retest, what a surprise. Big grab all the trend traders, right? Because they're like, it's going up. Even my 100-day moving average says it's going up. So really hilarious. Top. Yeah, it's kind of a bottom smash back, but it's the internal tops. And this whole congestion is worthy of like buy limits all the way down here that never got filled. So yeah, you can make a tremendous amount of money if you have a buy limit sitting at previous internals. When that market rips back and you have a day job, oh man, you're like, oh, I heard there was news today in this currency pair. Well, guess what? You just cleaned up, and you could have come home and now, of course, this presupposing you wait the next 4 weeks to get paid. One more month. Not everybody's got the patience for that. But volatility-wise, who's trading this? You got to have a 300 pip stop. You know, if you're going to buy here, you better have a 200 pip stop because the volatility just kicked up to 1 week. Like here's 1 week, 400 pips. You got to drop down to a smaller time frame if if you're not comfortable with stops wider than 50. Now 50 pips, you can't. If you're going to scalp the market, you don't want to scalp it with 50 pip stops, unless you're in this currency pair. I mean, I'm referring to like the euro dollar. Like maybe here you are scalping with 50 pip stops, but you better be trading light because you know you're moving 75 pips a day, 300 pips a day. You can see on these currencies. Yeah, you don't want to scalp with wide stops because if your scalp turns into a swing trade, you better be trading light enough to all of a sudden say, well, looks like this is going to be, if you're too stubborn to get out of the trade, then let it stop you out. And so that's hard. I mean, if you have this notion that the market's going to go another way, say during this whole phase of sell-off here, you just kept buying because you're like, oh, well, surely this is going to be, this proved to be support last time, so you buy and they stop you out and you're like, oh my god, really, another 200 pips? Like, just buy more. Now, had you stuck with it with tight enough stops, I guess you could say, well, I made quite a bit here and I made it all back here. But it's about how big are you in as you're, if you're going to buy these every week, you're buying, every week you're selling into that. Now, you made it all back and then some because it actually went lower. But it's about how much. If all your stops are 100 pips on this thing here to make 300 pips, if you can imagine, it's about trading more than just this. You'd probably have to have a buy here with this stop and this take profit, and then you're going to have your 50 pips to make 100s, and that's all got to be running inside here because otherwise by the time you finally get filled on this one, you may be stopped out of everything and you got nothing to ride this way. There's nothing left in your, not that you blew up your account, but you're taken out of the opportunity by sheerly not getting. And on the weekly charts, there's absolutely no excuse for fucking up these trades because if you have a buy limit here, you may not get filled, and some people consider losing money, but man, I mean, structurally, we all can see that if you did buy here, this is a possible target. Certainly got to dump something here because we could just keep retesting. Look at how they came up into this triangle flag, whatever you want to call it, and then just rejected it. So why not make money during this phase? Sure, you can get these psycho moves, but you got to be prepared to drop down to the 4-hour or the daily. You see stuff like this, like even right now. Now you could go down to the small time frame, but why do that when this chart's giving you This is 2 weeks of nonsense at this resistance. You know, maybe it's worth it to that point. But it's about pips risk, I guess. If you have a static idea that you don't want to risk more than $5, $50. This was the, I said this was going to cave in, and it did, but this was the cave-in point here, was this trend line. So this did fall apart here, came up into here. They grabbed these guys. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I said that it's kind of not the best sell in the world. And now it looks like they trapped the bears, at least maybe to here. So if this comes back to here and the euro pulls back a little bit, then this is going to just go down. Start filling this big hole here. And this depegging thing, you know, whatever, since we are unable to really... Of course, with a bullish call on this is that you're going to break this trend line eventually and start just marching north. So it is possible. It's possible actually for every currency to go up, every pair. I know it sounds weird, but at this point, it looks like almost everything's going up on here. It's odd to say this could pull back. This could come back to the starting gate. But I mean, it just, I don't know why. And I've seen it before. I've traded most of the majors seven pairs on 30 minutes charts for hours on end, real money, fake money, you name it. And I've seen things sync up. I thought, well, does this make sense? Why are they both going up? Why is the Canadian dollar and the British pound synced together perfectly in a pattern and they're both moving the same direction? Like, I've seen that a million times. I've also seen them completely go different directions, and I guess in some sense that makes more sense because you're thinking, well, they're completely different things. Why they synced up? This thing with the carry trade and all this nonsense. The euro used to go up and the stock markets used to go up. Well, just like this stuff, these are cross rates. And once it goes into a different balance mode, so this big marching pattern here where it's just we are going north, and they're just singing a song here that's just incredibly stable. That is like the ultimate trend. If you were just to isolate this and build your robot on that, I think it would make money. Same thing here. These marching, like this marching orders and then the consolidation, but look at this thing just cut awake. But then distribution comes in, come back. Here is the retest of this whole thing, this whole structure. But these are mini marches, right? These are the protesters in the streets. But here is like, oh boy. But yeah, this is some crazy stuff. Crazy. Definitely buy limits here. You can see it coming. This may have to drip down. This is probably the only bearish thing I see in here. And Australia is so strong that I think the pound has to take a back seat, at least into this area here. But I wouldn't want to, the last thing I'd want to do, and I actually am a real pattern trader, I mean really a visual trader, I have no idea what I'm risking, so that can be a little bit of a problem from the account standpoint. But when this bottom comes at the top, I guess I see that easier than I see that, oh, I want to hang some bizarre inverted, like, well, here is one wing, and I still am not able to, I don't know why. I guess you could come up with a, and there's some kind of, I don't know, it's the triangle, and I hate to even speculate why people are attracted to triangles. Without being risque, but you know, the thing is that the idea there's some kind of bat wing here to justify. People want to fill this thing in. I don't know. Here we go. Well, it looks like a. I think it looks more like a pterodactyl actually. And there's a lot of the prehistoric stuff is triangular, if you notice. And you notice your teeth, they got triangular ridges. It's a cotton I just found out today from forensic files that cotton has a triangular fiber. So triangles in nature are really very appealing. Who doesn't love a triangle? So, but these troughs here, now this could be a little disturbing for the triangle traders, and they're like, what the hell's going on? So corrections are brutal, and this is like, this is supposed to be in Elliott terms a pullback to here, perfect structure issue, and a continuation. Wow, that so didn't work out. But do you have a backup plan? So if you're going to trade both directions, it's going to cost you a little bit more money. Say you bracket it here and you put a buy stop and a sell stop and whichever way the wind blows. But you're going to pay a little bit extra for your insurance policies. But we all know the point in that is that maybe you weren't the genius you thought you were, so you have an insurance policy for, it's too bad they don't have that for relationships, so I guess they call it prenuptial. But you kind of have some type of parachute clause. Get me out of here. Yeah, top became a bottom, but not quite perfectly. Top became a bottom, but zoom, zoom, zoom. So this is kind of a bizarre thing. This is the only thing I guess the pound is going to have to maybe come down a touch. But of course, you know, season to taste, as they say. I don't know, just looking at the just redneck trading here, you know. No offense to rednecks, but just get her done trading here. You know, it's just itching to pop up here. This is smelting down. This is up. This is the next one. This is going to be brutal if we take this out, obviously. You know, this is probably going to come back. This is the laggard that's going to follow. And the yen, I mean, the yen's in trouble. Just the raw yen. Look how the Australians are going to crush it. Trend line to break. We're just about to smash all this stuff, so they're going to be a lot of news trying to, oh, why is the market, let me try to interview people. Well, it's because of so-and-so. But like, all you have to do is go back and look at the newspapers on these big moves here, and you can see that's the funniest thing you'll ever hear in your life is people coming up with a reason why the market did this. It's just because, guess what? It was too high, and it had to go down. I'm sorry, you're too high. You have to go down. It's that stupid. And of course, this inflection point where these bottoms become the top at this channel. I guess I get it now. Here's the Gartley pattern. I think I'm seeing it now. Here it is, right? Did I get that right? Here's where the head is. Here's his wings. Of course, he's coming at you at an angle, so this wing's a little bit bigger. He's like, I'm coming in sideways. Incoming. Okay, this is a failure to this. Buy limits here. Wow. This year is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy year in Forex. Volatility is just going to come off. I think the volatility is going to kick up a little bit here now. A lot of people, and all these people that I hear this all the time. I watch all this garbage on YouTube. Oh well, you know, the summer, you know, market's slow. Don't trade. Don't trade during holidays. Don't trade this. Don't trade the news. Don't do. How about just don't trade, right? I mean, what kind of wimps? I mean, I don't get this thing. Right? If you can't handle the heat, just lower your size. There's so much money here. This is gonna. I mean, this is so easy, right? This looks like it's going down, right? This thing's kind of having a hard time. This thing's a buy. This thing's not a buy. This is an auction. This is the first trap for the bears here. They've trapped them here. If they cannot, if they cannot have sellers come in back here and bring it down, wow, forget about it. It's going up. Crude's going up. This guy's so who's next in line? Buying this guy, just at the market like a pig. Sunday night, and that's the only ones I see. Buy. I guess this is not a lot of pips, you know. So buy. Just buy them all. Buy these. That's not ripe yet. This has got to pull back some more. This one's too late. You're chasing it. Oh, that's the monthly. See, there you go. Okay, buy it. This one, I don't know. They could kick that back. That looks scary. Too many wicks there. Oh, this is a vicious pair, right? Who's trading this? People with deep pockets. I'd wait for this thing to retest this. Although it does look like it's going up, but you're going to need a big stop on that. That's it. It's not that hard. It's not. Look at this thing. This is total buy here. So, I guess if you gave it a rating, this probably has to pull back. But this one, buy, 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 buy. And there's at least 5 buys on here. This is a buy. This one you might want to take profits on that listing, or take profits on that. This is a buy. That's a buy. So not all of them are going to go your way. That's just buying at the market, just raw. You know, tomorrow night, just raw, like an idiot, just like a blind moron. And that works real good. They call that beginner's luck, and I don't know why people give up on that beginner's luck. And the reason why people have beginner's luck, because they're not overthinking it. And maybe they're just lucky, because if they trade without a stop, they could be right in the end. You could be right in the end. But beginner's luck is really based on the theory that you've never been hit by a car, so you drive without your seatbelt. And you still get to where you're going. And maybe you drive over the speed limit. And it's all well and good until that one day. But whereas I had when I was about 25 years ago, I was trading, and I had the textbook mindset approach to it, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to read all the books, I'm going to study all this, because I come from a upbringing where you're supposed to, like for instance, I wanted to play an instrument. My parents immediately said to me, well, we'll get a teacher for you. And I said, I already know how to play. The fuck, you're getting, like, don't cramp my style with somebody telling me how to do it. If I really suck at it, then your anger is going to make me just have to think out how to play better. And I'm going to go down my own personal path of how you're set up, right? So if you're a hot chick looking girl, you know, you can, I guess without, in other words, a balance point. If you're smart, maybe you don't want to act like you're smart, because you have to use what God gave you, right? So if you're hot looking, then you have doors open to you, but you can't, you have other doors that are closed to you because people make assumptions about you. And of course, if you're in a wheelchair and you're able to do math or something, people are listening to you because they're like, oh my God, the guy's in a wheelchair. I mean, there's a bias. Unfortunately, there's a filter. Like here I am just babbling about the market. People say, well, how, if you know what's going on, how come you don't have a Rolls Royce? I don't want a Rolls Royce, but that's a lot of stress to me. I'm a low stress guy, so I'm making enough money that I can live, and I don't need to. If I wanted to make more money, there's a liability, right? In other words, if you say you had $1 million in your bank account, you just can't show up tomorrow, and you never could do this. I mean, the idea that there's some restrictions on, you know, if you showed up to a bank typically in the olden days, unless you were robbing it, you can't say, give me all the money in the vault, right? People are like, well, you know, we have, like, even if you go to the store, right, if you have too big a bill, they're like, well, if you got a smaller bill, like, we'd have to go to the bank. In other words, there's this whole pecking order of distributions. So, I don't know. I guess I watch too much YouTube, so I watch people do dumb videos like, this is a hoax, you know. I'm like, really? Like, this is just, and I didn't figure it out that it was clickbait. I didn't know what clickbait was. And so unfortunately I fell into it, and I started to get angry about stupid stuff I'd see. And of course the dumbest stuff I see is these the Forex market is people that are trying to sell this hand-holding service, when they're holding your hand in a room on the way to the gas chambers, right? And they're not holding your hand on the way to paradise. And they're not really helping. I guess, I don't know, I think life is a do-it-yourself project. That's what I'm trying to say. In other words, if you're depressed, either kill yourself or get over it, right? There's a certain amount, and I don't know if anybody's been to a shrink, but I have, and I mean, they fall asleep when I'm there. So what's the point at $80 an hour, $80 for 50 minutes if you're gonna nod out on me? Because I'm ranting or I'm just talking nonsense. That's not helping me. You could say, listen, shut the fuck up. You're boring us. That would have been better. $80 an hour with no advice. Come on. I mean, what a scam. You know, I feel like I'd rather go to the palm reader, right? The same thing with the markets here. I mean, you're seeing what you. Some people are seeing the trades that they missed, and some people are seeing the trades they lost on, and they're like, wow, you know, this is just one big chaotic mess. How am I ever going to navigate? Well, on the weekend when the market's not open, I guess it's the only time to predetermine entry points. And even if it's on this weekly chart where you're not going to get filled, if you place all those orders, and by the end of the week you never get filled. I've done this a couple times where I've put my orders too wide, because after seeing the wicks, I thought, well, I'll just place my orders on the outskirts of town. Without a fill that week, you still got money in your account. Now, this may be a little disturbing if you consider yourself to be a trader. Or as I saw this guy say on Stefan Molyneux, he said he was a gamer. And he said, well, gamers means something different to gamers. Well, yeah, but everybody's a trader in life. Like, everybody traded to go to the TV show or go to the movie theater instead of staying home and making babies or whatever. There's always a fork in the road for everything you do, so everybody's trading whether they like it or not. And so in the markets, you know, there's just a pile of money here available, but it's not the way you think in terms of having the market fit your ideal. Say you built a system that, well, when RSI is here and this is that, yeah, but you still have to figure out how much you're going to risk on each one of these silly ideas. And you have to just take it down a notch. Like, you can't overanalyze this stuff. And that's what happened to me 25 years ago. I just got to the point where I thought, you know, I'm going to approach this very seriously. I'm a serious trader. And I could not make a move to save my life because I thought, well, but if I go in here, it's going to do, and then what if it, and then you literally have to just jump in. But you jump in small, and even if you're down a little bit of money, you're still wrong. I mean, the weight of being wrong and the weight of losing money are two different parts of your brain. One affects you in the financial world of, like, say, in other words, you're losing a piece of yourself. If you had to make that money by working, you're basically you're risking you're risking your life, because it took time of your life to make the money. So you're actually in kind of this, you know, it hurts on a primal level to lose money, but if you have a bunch of money, you feel like you can stand the storm, so you don't care so much. But being wrong about the direction of a market or the next behavior, the next type of behavior that's to come, whether or not it's whether or not the volatility is going to get smaller or larger, even on that standpoint of just, if you're able to predict the volatility, like, are we going to have is volatility going to diminish over the next 3 days, or is it going to expand? That's without regard to the direction. If you could just make that call alone, that's your edge, or you build a system based on that. Now, that doesn't fall in line with the people that trade the Ikamusha clouds or whatever have you, because they're looking at the market through a filter that is like, if you've ever done any like when you get a piece of audio equipment, typically the tone controls are set to flat. But if you were to experiment with the extreme edge of the EQ range on an amplifier, you can get these crazy, delicious sounds. But you can't really, if you do that with the market, say the market's a piece of music, and you start EQing the crap out of it and put reverb on it, at some point, you know, this is when you start to put on Bollinger Bands and all this stuff, these echo chambers of volatility, and you're going to lose the original piece of music. Now, it wouldn't matter in music business because people love to put on, just gargantuan reverb tanks and stuff that would just mind-blowingly spatial effects to create more drama. Now, if you're going to put on Ikamusha clouds, and you do got to love the Ikamusha cloud because it really is a romantic, I mean, you're talking about clouds. I almost think the price is going to heaven when it goes up, you know, like, look at that, it's going to heaven. Oh, it's back in the cloud. Oh, is it now? Oh, gee. But you have to have a trade plan for that. Like, you'd have to switch gears and say, we're in stop mode. If the markets go flat, you have to take a different approach. When the markets are screaming up or down, man, I'm telling you, if you don't have, like, the ability to drop down to a time frame that fits your pip risk, you're doomed. You can't trade the same strategy on top of a range trading thing. If it doesn't have the right pip stop to it, it's like completely, you know, it's not, you can't mix car parts like that. Like, you would never take a manual tranny and swap certain parts for an automatic transmission, right? And by tranny, that used to mean transmissions on a car. And so you also can't do that either. You can't, like, Bruce Jenner yourself. Like Bruce Jenner, I think he didn't edit his hardware, so he wants to play on both teams, I guess, without paying the price. But you can't change what you are, right? And so you can't change if you're impatient. You need to find the cure is the 1 minute chart. If you got patience, yeah, this weekly update, it's cute. You know, I never thought about it. I'm not a weekly trader, but all the structures are the same. It's just, it's more risk on here. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Anyways, and this is the most boring currency ever too. But this is definitely help out. We're going up, right? We are so going up, and we're so going after this here, right? It's only 300 pips away. So buy the euro against the pound too. Forgot to put that on the list. Okay, well, don't forget to move your stop if the market comes after it, and always trade as big as you possibly can without blowing up the account.